Welcome to Marketing After Hours with JumpFly, where marketing meets creativity. All day, we're heads down in PPC, social media, Amazon, SEO, and more. After hours, we talk shop. Because when the day ends, the best conversations begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marketing After Hours with JumpFly, the podcast where marketing meets creativity after the workday ends. JumpFly specializes in paid search, paid social, SEO, marketplaces, helping businesses navigate in an ever-evolving digital landscape. I'm your host, Alex Pat, and today we are going to be doing some myth busting. No, we're not going to be using Coke and Mentos and, seeing what's hotter, what's colder, but we're going to be busting some marketing myths related to paid search and Amazon marketplaces. So without further ado, I want to introduce our two guests. We have Nick from Marketplace here at JumpFly, and we have John from PPC here at JumpFly. Guys, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
So, put your Mentos away. I know you're drinking some Coca-Cola there. Yeah. I know you were going to think this was going to be science experiment fun, but I think we'll have a good time with this because there are a lot of maybe misconceptions, or people will look at digital marketing and assume something they heard from the movies or a TV show. And we want to share the knowledge of common questions that get asked and provide some good answers and hopefully some insight on what we do as marketers.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
So before we go any further, let's raise our glasses to the truth.
To truth.
To truth.
If you want to call it
Busting
that.
some myths,
right.
Exactly. Okay, so each one of you is going to be read a myth about your respective field, and we're just going to go ahead and bust it, have a conversation, and expand upon it. So why don't we go in? Let's start with Amazon Marketplace. So myth number one, selling on Amazon is easy money, get rich quick.
Yeah, I feel like I get that one a lot. It's like you see, TikTok videos or, videos on social media of, drop ship this product and you can make a ton of money. It's passive income. You don't have to do anything. And that is 100% not the case. If that was the case, I really wouldn't have a job. Yeah. So it's like, people think it's, you list a product on Amazon, let it ride, you're going to get sales. That's not the case at all. There's so many, you look at Amazon now, they've become the one-stop shop for everything. Anything you want, you can find on Amazon. How do you not get lost in that sea of products? So really the big piece there is, I'd say, to bust the myth, is the amount of work you've got to put in. You've got to build your listings. You've got to get good imagery. You've got to get good content. You've got to use all the enhanced features that Amazon has, like A+ pages and brand storefronts. Then you have to run ads. So you're looking at paying money to get that product in front of people. So really, you can have a great product. You can list it, whatever you want, but it's just not going to naturally move itself. You've got a lot more work that goes into it. So
there's a process to it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not just you wave a magic wand and there it is.
Yeah, and even with if you had a dominant brand in your space, it still takes effort. It's not just and even the listing of a product is not something that's simple. It takes time. You've got to do all of the different factors that go into a product page. So overall, just you get out what you put in, essentially, with Amazon or any other marketplace. And the other, more niche marketplaces, the more you have to massage that content, massage the platform to really see success. So nice, you started me out with a nice, easy one. It's not get rich quick. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because your first myth at PPC, John, it's kind of similar. So this myth is paid search guarantees immediate sales.
Yeah. And no, it does not. Especially, there's a lot of factors, as kind of Nick stated. It's similar in the manner of you have to have brand recognition. A lot of components go into it, but a lot of people do think that the second I start paying for ads, I should see results immediately. But that's not usually the case. When you're doing ads, it's not just they click on the ad, they go to add something in a cart, and then they're making a sale. It's the landing page experience that goes into it. Your website has to be fleshed out, easy to use, easy to convert on. And then as well as you might not be showing ads to the right people. You might not be, the exact terms that you want to show for. So there's a lot of different components to it, but it's definitely not guaranteed sales. For some industries, it might be easier than others. But for a lot, it's a bit of a grind, especially nowadays with AI learning. The first day you're not going to start to see sales.
Right. And think about it too. People are shopping around.
Yes.
And that kind of goes for both you guys, especially now when people are trying to be financially conscious. They're not looking at one thing necessarily and buying right away. They're going to be shopping around for a little bit.
Yep. And we actually were just in a meeting today where I think it was over 50% of searches on Google result in no clicks.
Mhm.
So people are literally searching around. They might do another search, but you're not going to be a one-time click sale. That might happen every now and then, but it's not going to be what you should expect.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're in the same boat where a lot of the clients that come to us are like, yeah, I spent $1,000 and I saw nothing of it.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, there's so much strategy behind that. Anybody can turn on ads and spend money. That's the simple part of it. But building out that strategy and making sure you have not just a built out strategy, but a team behind it to implement it. Otherwise, you're throwing money down the toilet at that point.
Yeah, and a lot of those conversations lead to on my end, I'm trying to make sure I'm sending good traffic to you based off of what they're searching, what they're clicking on, everything along those lines. And sometimes it doesn't end up in a perfect conversion, even if it's your number one term that you want to show up for, and it works in SEO, everything along those lines. It might still not convert at the very end of the day.
Yep.
But that's part of the grind, just because of what Alex said. There is competition out there.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I don't think there's a keyword out there that only has one company bidding on it. Yeah. And if there is,
I'd love to know what that is.
Yeah, and Google probably is not going to show an ad for it because they limit those kind of things.
Yep.
So
yeah,
you're going into a competitive landscape. Be prepared to be competitive.
Well, our next marketing myth is, again, towards Amazon Marketplace. So speaking of money, this one says, the cheapest price always wins.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a little bit of truth to that, and we're seeing it more and more right now because the everyday customer is so price sensitive, but you can beat someone on price, but if you have an inferior product, people are going to catch on to that quick.
Sure.
So having a good price point and an affordable price point is big, but it's not the end all be all. You also have to have those differentiating factors of why you're better than your competitors. You have to have, good reviews is a huge one. And then being able to tell that story of the product on Amazon through images and content. So price is important. And I would say, you can very easily price yourself out of the market, but I'd say price competitiveness is the real important piece there. Making sure you're within a range that's affordable, but also gets you that premium that your product deserves. So, I mean, that's kind of across the board for anything. You're going out to the grocery store, you're looking at, Walmart has a generic option versus the name brand. If they're the same exact product, why not go with the cheaper one? But if it's, thinking about things like protein powder is a big one on Amazon. People want natural ingredients. They want something that's healthy. They want to know what's in the product rather than just a bunch of junk. So there are times where, you want to have the cheapest price, but there's also times where if you can afford to get a premium, why wouldn't you?
Right.
So it's not the end all be all. I think that's a middle of the line myth. There is some.
It's the
truth
general
to that,
statements.
but
You need to expand upon it. You need to make it more sophisticated in what you're doing, not just the general statements.
Yeah, there's so much more to it than simply do I have the lowest price.
Yeah.
And I would assume that goes with your side of things as well. If you have a competitor who's offering a dirt cheap product and it's the same exact thing, you're gonna have a hard time beating them out.
Yeah, especially with and you're probably dealing with it more than I am, but Temu, Shein, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Those are all things that have kind of come into the landscape over the last couple of years, and they've kind of dominated the consumer's mind in the sense of I can get this for 3 cents.
Yep.
And but you're probably going to expect not that great of a product in return. So you got to find that right line, and it's the same thing with Google as well.
Yeah, you get what you pay for, essentially.
Exactly.
I saw a video or something of someone ordered a patio furniture set off Temu or whatever, one of those platforms, and it's $12 for a patio set, but then the chairs are miniature doll chairs. It's and what did you expect? You're not getting a full patio set for $12.
Well, you get what you pay for has been a thing forever. I mean, it's the same concept
Yep.
at the end of the day. So you just apply it to this newer medium.
Yep.
Yeah, and unfortunately, listings can be misleading in the sense of you might see an image and you have to look at the fine details to even understand if this is the product that you actually want. So I mean, be price conscious, but also a lot of shoppers don't want to go for the cheapest option because they know that is going to be the result. So
Too good to be true.
Right.
exactly.
Right, exactly. Okay, so our next PPC myth, and this is a really good one. Paid search is set it and forget it.
Yeah. A lot of people, especially nowadays, like to think that that is the case. It's definitely not. I mean, it's always tied to how it's built off of AI learning. A lot of things are built off of AI learning nowadays, and you can't trust AI one for one, especially with Google Ads. It is not a set it and forget it strategy. You know, if you're doing like a very basic campaign, like you have one keyword, exact match, and you're just kind of letting it run because you know all the queries are going to be the exact same, yeah, that could be set it and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, that's not going to be your main driver. A lot of strategies need to be nurtured. They need to have, you know, edits done to them. Not all of them. I mean, there are limitations, like certain campaign types. You're not able to make as many changes as, say, like a search campaign, but there's a lot of components to it that they do need human element. You know, you need to be able to review it yourself and deem if it's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of components to it. I mean, especially when you're dealing with, you know, say you're going a year, you're running the same campaign for 1 year, you don't touch anything. It's probably going to start to perform a lot less or a lot worse over that year span because competition's entering the field. You know, maybe bidded strategies have changed. I mean, Google changes stuff on a week-by-week basis.
Right.
So if you're not keeping up with all of those trends and changes, you're probably going to start to see the effects, and you'll probably start to see it once you know, it's affecting your bottom dollar.
Yep.
So having constant maintenance on stuff is really how you can kind of fine tune your campaigns and get it to a point where maybe you need to do a little bit less work, but it's not, you know, set it and forget it as a lot of people do think it might be.
Right, and to your point, I mean, Google is always adding new things. Like, for example, a few years ago, they added the business logo and the business name. So that adds a lot of value, I think. If you're seeing some ads that have the logo and the name on the ads and others that don't, I mean, one looks more professional, looks more up to date, it looks more trustworthy in a way. So it's just sometimes those little things like that don't seem very big, but can make a difference.
You also look at consumer behaviors changing so much.
Mhm.
Like even like right now,
Yes.
we've seen such a huge shift in the way people are generally shopping. Kind of
Mhm.
goes back to the price sensitivity piece. Like people are going to take the cheaper option a lot of the times, but then you also still have your segment of people who are willing to pay a premium, and like they may, you know, even search terms, you know, the way people search for things has changed so significantly over the last year.
Yeah.
And then it's continually evolving. It's never going to be static. So it's just always, you know, staying up to date. And then, you know, you may have one strategy, and my limited knowledge of like PMAX, those sort of things, like, yeah, you could probably let it run for a while, but you're also missing out on all these other untapped strategies that you could be implementing. So,
Yeah, exactly. And think about this too. Look at the way that phrase and exact behave differently now versus a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, when we were running exact match a few years ago, it was exact match. Now, when you do SQRs, you see so much close variant in there. And it's like, isn't this what phrase match used to be in a way? So that kind of thing changes too.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, a lot of people, I'll take over an account and they'll be like, yeah, we ran ads, you know, 5 years ago. And it was doing amazing. We had these search terms. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work that way anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
You know, to your point with the match types, that's a huge change that has played a major factor, especially with the close variants, where it does act like phrase match. It's difficult to have exact match actually work as exact match now. It takes looking at the search queries, adding negatives constantly. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into it that AI is not going to do for you.
Yeah, and it sparked in my brain. I listened to with Jack and Nikki, kind of the old head PPCs talking through things. It was like back when broad match actually, I forget, I'll probably butcher this, but I think it actually had to have the term in broad match at that point. And then eventually, like overnight, that changed. And like, wait, like I'm sure we could sit here and tell broad match horror stories all day.
Yeah.
Like it's insane.
You can make a
what
whole series
sometimes
on that.
picks up.
Seriously.
Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
So,
it used to be called, you could do broad match, then you could do modified broad match, which modified broad match is probably what you're talking about, where you could have like a little plus mark next to each word. And it was pretty much telling Google, this word has to be in each query in order for this to show.
Same thing with Amazon,
Can't do that anymore. And it's kind of how phrase match acts in a way now.
Yeah.
Phrase match used to be completely different. It's changed a lot. So, and I expect it to keep changing, honestly. So,
Moral of the story, stay on top of it.
yeah.
That's the big thing, right?
Yes.
We need a hammer.
Look at your
Bust
search
it.
query.
Myth busted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. I wish we had a
Just-
hammer. I wish we had a sledgehammer. Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
there you go.
Just go all out, though. I don't
Glass
think we want to
windows,
damage
yeah.
this.
Yeah,
but
we might be
Yeah.
in a bad spot there.
yeah.
but-
Well,
That's
they're doing a
wonderful.
lot of work here in this building,
it
so
sounds
maybe.
like there's a sledgehammer above us half the time.
Well, yeah. I mean,
currently.
they're building out an office
New
right
office,
above us, and we hear it a lot. So maybe we could borrow one from them. I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to marketplace myths. All right, Nick, here's your next one. List it, and sales will come.
Kind of goes back to
Set it and
the
forget it,
common
yeah.
theme of what we're talking about here. I go back to Amazon is the one-stop shop for everything. If you look at, a glass, how many glasses do you think are on Amazon? It's like
5 million.
there's like millions of different variations and different styles and different price points. You could probably spend $150 on a glass, or you could spend $1.50 on a glass. So like, how do you make yourself prevalent in this vast marketplace? Even looking at Walmart, who's newer to the marketplace game, they still have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of products on there. So you can't just expect to set it up, forget it, and then sales are going to come. You've got to. You may have a great brand where people are searching for your brand name and it's going to pop up organically, so you may be able to capture some sales there. But driving ads is going to be, taking this thing to the next level. You're not going to scale without putting at least something into it. So, really just being found in the vast world of Amazon at this point is, it's tough. So, if you don't have the right strategies, the right team behind you, the right product, it's never just sales won't come. That is not the case by any means. So pretty straightforward one there, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned glasses and buying glasses. I can only imagine.
Oh yeah.
Like just
millions.
that alone, how much of that is on Amazon?
Yeah, and you think of everything. Like there's hundreds of thousands of every single product out
Yes.
there. Like it could be. I have a hard time if I'm looking for something in my personal life. I'm like, how do I even start making a decision? Okay, I filter down by 4-star reviews. Filter down by my price point. Doesn't have Amazon Prime. It's going to show up in 2 days, and then I still have thousands to sort through. So it's like the everyday customer probably isn't even using those filters. Maybe they're using Prime because they want it tomorrow or next day or whatever like that. But it's just, how do you stand out in such a competitive, vast marketplace like Amazon or Walmart?
A lot of it's probably building the brand. Because, me personally, when I go on Amazon, I do sometimes filter by like top brands,
Yep.
everything along those lines, because I want something that's, actually reputable. And reviews are pretty easy to place. And, seeing 5-star reviews doesn't always lead to me thinking that it's a great product.
Right.
So vetting everything out is kind of the process. And it might be, that might just be me, but it's also probably a lot of different consumers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You also look at like going back to price even. If I'm looking at, a product and I see everything's around $50 and then all of a sudden I see something for 25, I'm like, I don't recognize the brand. Like something's weird here. It goes back to you get what you pay for. Is it too good to be true? You don't want to go with something that's garbage, because there's a lot of garbage out there, honestly.
Oh,
Like,
countless garbage. Yeah.
It's crazy. So really just being able to stand out and kind of carve your little niche in these giant marketplaces is key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go on to another Google myth.
Let's do it.
Here's another good one, and this is especially applicable to JumpFly. Google is the only search engine to invest in.
Yeah, no. And this kind of goes back to another meeting that I was in earlier today, but especially nowadays, you need to have a full fleshed out game plan across really any platform that you are on, and some platforms that you're not on, you need to get on them. It could be optimizing your SEO, optimizing PPC, website, like your CRO. There's a lot of elements that go into having a successful business on the internet. And Google, although it's a very popular avenue, most people search using Google. It's not what everybody uses. So having, ads on Meta or Instagram, even like TikTok, there's a lot of places where you can get somebody who you would never get using strictly Google, because not everybody does. It's a big market claim, but it's not going to get you everything. And for some industries, Google works very, very well. For some, it doesn't. Some Microsoft ads works very, very well. So it is, having a well-versed portfolio in a sense of advertising as well as your organics is really what's going to drive success. You can have a great ads campaign. That could be the only thing you actually spend money on, but you could expand more into other avenues and probably get great results as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one thing that we do here at JumpFly with paid search is we are a Bing partner as
Yes.
well, and we work with Bing a lot. And right now, there are some industries and some businesses that are better suited for Bing than
Definitely.
Google. And
Yep.
it's not a one-way street. It's you got to evaluate the market, their industry, what they do, and you do find that. So some of our clients that are on Bing, they get as good, if not better, results at a cheaper cost just because the platform works. Obviously, it's not applicable to everybody, but you kind of got to know what industry you're in, what you're doing, what kind of audiences you're going after, and that can better tell you on where to run. Google is not the sole engine to go on here, so
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, a lot of people do ask me, why would I go on Bing? Why would I use Bing? Everyone uses Google.
Mhm.
It's like, well, not everybody does.
Right.
I mean, yes, it's a major percentage of people in the US, but it's not everybody. There are certain industries that work a whole lot better on Microsoft, and that's for a variety of reasons. A lot of people tend to just use Microsoft. Maybe it's because they might not trust Google, or maybe it's because their web browser defaults to Microsoft.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different reasons, and sometimes you can identify those by industry trends. You can kind of see, okay, let's try out Microsoft. It's one of those things, especially with PPC. You can try it out. You can spend $1,000 a month for 3 months, and you'll probably understand if it's going to work for you or not.
Mhm.
So try out every avenue that you possibly can.
It's
And see what
open-minded.
works.
Being open-minded
Yes.
is kind of the key here.
Yes.
Is the takeaway.
It kind of
Yeah.
goes back to and it's very applicable for marketplace as well, like the omni-channel.
Mm-hmm.
Having that omni-channel approach to your business overall.
That was what
It's
Jill was
it's a
saying.
super basic thing, but all your eggs in one basket. You drop the basket, there goes all your eggs.
Exactly.
So it's just I heard someone say, I forget who it was, but meet the shopper where they're at, which is overly applicable for marketplace, but even for these search
I like that.
platforms. Just finding, when you look at Amazon, you have this Amazon Prime membership that's the most dominant, membership out there probably. But then you also have Walmart Plus. There's
Mhm.
people who use Walmart. I saw a Walmart Plus van driving through my neighborhood the other day. Didn't even know that existed. So it's there are, as little as you think about it, there are people who are kind of dedicated to all these other platforms. And you talk about, Google maybe upwards of 90% of overall search traffic.
Mhm.
But when you're looking at even 2%, the number of searches that are out there, that's
Mhm.
still a ton of traffic.
Yes.
So even if the percentage is small, you still want to make sure you're trying to get a piece of that pie there as well.
It's also a lot of times with that, we're talking about competitiveness as well. If you're dipping your toes into these other buckets, it might be less competitive. You might
Mhm.
be, you might be able to get more out of it just because you're going after less competition. As you mentioned, clicks might be cheaper on Microsoft rather than Google for your search terms. Although you might not get the same impression numbers off the same budget, you might get the same ROAS or return, in general. So
Yeah.
try it all out.
Well, one thing that we've tried a little bit is certain industrial clients that we have, and that's done pretty well on Bing. And again, the competition isn't as high, but there is competition. There is a piece of the pie that's to be eaten there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that I do like is that when you go into Microsoft Bing and you look at everything and you could say, okay, this is pretty similar to what it's laid out on Google, right?
Practically a clone.
So
Yeah.
it's not like you have to adapt to all this new terminology and all these new things. And it's a little different in some areas. The layout's slightly different, but it's easy to figure out if you know Google. So it's not like you're learning a whole new language
Yeah.
when you go to Microsoft Bing. Would you
Yeah,
say that's accurate?
100%. And I would even branch that off into meta ads. I mean, a lot of say you are e-commerce, you're going to have a feed management program. Maybe it's Google Merchant Center, but a lot of those will integrate with pretty much across the board.
Yep.
You'll be able to set something up that will run the exact same way, in a sense, on multiple platforms. So it's not going to be a lot of maintenance on that end in terms of if you have something solidified that's working very well on Google, it will probably work well on Bing,
Mhm.
and vice versa. So try it all out. That's
Yeah, and the cool thing about JumpFly is we've got multiple experts all in one building working through all of this.
yeah, we
So,
specialize.
Exactly.
It's not just one person who needs to know it all. We've
Yeah.
got a whole team for everything.
I don't do 12 different jobs. I practically do
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
So
Okay, so now we go back to Marketplace, and this I think is a big one. Reviews will come naturally.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Like we'll get reviews as they come in. Like we don't have to worry about that. And it's not the case. And it's not having reviews is so detrimental because what is it doing? It's building that customer trust. People don't trust your product. People don't trust your brand. There's so many other options out there. How do you stand out? So you also couple that with like all of the different factors going on with like the FTC and fake reviews, AI generated reviews. Amazon does a really good job of that where they've got, you can't incentivize reviews. Yeah, you could do it, but it's against their terms. So eventually Amazon's going to catch on. They're one of the biggest companies in the world. But they also have, the right way to go about getting reviews, going through their Amazon Vine program, which is essentially you're sending out free products, people are leaving a review. So it's really something that make or breaks. Like we just talked about, how we personally search on Amazon. One of my biggest things is filtering by 4 stars or more. If it doesn't have at least 4 stars, that's why would I even bother wasting my time? Then I've got to go and return it. Or even though returns are super easy with Amazon, you can go drop it off.
People don't want
wherever,
to do it though.
Yeah,
No.
it's. I'd rather if I'm ordering something, I want it. I want to keep it. I don't want to have to return it. So they won't naturally come. You may pick up some organically here and there, but when your competitors have, I just looked at a product earlier that I think it had 916,000 reviews.
Wow.
And it's like,
how
do you even, and that leads into, are
Yeah.
they paying for reviews? Is AI reviews? But Amazon has something really cool that it's the verified purchase. So this was actually purchased because little tidbit that a lot of people don't even know is that you could go to Amazon for a product you didn't even buy and leave a review. So like a lot of people are doing that, friends and family going and leaving reviews on a product saying, hey, this is a great product, blah, 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 whatever, but they didn't actually buy the product.
Right.
So that's one of the big things I look for is do we have positive reviews from legitimate customers?
Mhm.
Because people are starting to, become wiser when it comes to where those reviews are coming from. Are they legitimate? And it's honestly a whole strategy around selling on these marketplaces is how are we going to go about gaining more reviews, building that customer trust, making sure we stand out versus our competitors. If I see a competitor with 2 stars, I say, okay, let's target them and go after some market share because the customers are easily going to come to our product with 4 stars, 5 stars. So, it's really an easy tactic for competitors to take you out as well. So really just having a full-fledged review strategy is a crucial piece for all of these marketplaces. It's just so important and it doesn't come naturally. Over time, you spend 10 years selling on a platform, yeah, you're going to get a handful of organic reviews, but you've also got to have a dedicated strategy to gain those.
Sure.
Yeah, you're asking for somebody to go out of their way,
Yep.
in a sense, to leave you something, as a token. A lot of people are not gonna. That's not gonna be, their first thought. It's
Yep.
like, hey, yeah, this product was amazing. Let me go leave them a 5-star review.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to incentivize, but
When you think about who are the people who are leaving reviews, either incentivized or really, really happy or
Really,
really, really mad.
yeah,
So it's like,
Mhm.
how do you offset those people who are upset? Obviously, you want to offer a great product where people aren't going to be upset. But if you do have, the one-offs where it didn't fit someone's need or they're having a bad day, that's all it takes is someone's having a bad day at work, they come home, they get a product, there's one little thing that they don't like about it, and then all of a sudden you got a 1-star review making some outrageous claims, and that can be super detrimental to the product overall.
Oh yeah, there's some
Yeah.
sort of outlier where it was delivered slightly late or slightly damaged, where something that usually
Yep.
doesn't happen. I mean, that stuff does happen. So if you get one outlier bad review, like you said, that can skew things.
Yeah, and people don't understand. Like they think, oh, it's Amazon. They don't care about my review. But there's so many small businesses selling on Amazon now that one really bad review, just because you're upset about one little thing, or fulfillment when Amazon's the one fulfilling it, it's not the sellers. So
Right.
it's really like people don't understand the true impact that it has on some of these smaller businesses. They just think, hey, it's Amazon, this giant corporation, doesn't affect them at all.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of small businesses that really rely on that. So
Right. Like any business, big or small, they want as many positive reviews and feedback as possible.
exactly.
Yep. So let's go back to PPC. Here's the next myth. Here is another good one. More spending equals better results.
Oh yeah, a lot of people think this, but a lot of people also are not willing to spend more money most of the time because they're like, oh, what am I going to give Google more money? But no, in a general sense, no. Spending more money does not always offer better results. It might offer more results in the sense of if you already have a fleshed out campaign, you can kind of, gauge, I'm spending $1,000 a month, I'm making $5,000. I can expect if I spend $2,000, I might be able to make 10. But that's not always a guarantee. And the more you scale up, the more those might start to differ. There is a cap usually on the market when it comes to those kind of things. But in general, spending more money usually just results in you can get more clicks, you can get more volume, more impression share, take over more of those searches that you possibly can or that you want to show for. But it doesn't always result in, better results. It's more just more results. Yeah. But you might start to see a dip in your ROAS, or you might start to see a dip in, click-through rates because you're starting to show for more searches that you weren't beforehand. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of elements to it, but it's a bit of a generalization, I would say. And it's not always applicable, but I wouldn't say it's completely false because there are scenarios where, you might be showing less than 10% of the time for all your main keywords. Yeah, if you doubled your budget, you probably would see close to double your results.
Yep.
But it's not always the case.
Yeah. You look at my big thing is and being at JumpFly, we say, let the data dictate when to spend more. Yeah. I think that's a huge piece. And you have that law of diminishing returns where eventually you can't just always spend, like you said, if you're getting a great return and, you're capped out. Yeah, you may double your budget, you may double sales, but it's not always the case. And I think we have actually a shared client, like the coffee home goods space. Yeah. And it's like, you guys are killing it. Let's spend more, but it's just not in their book right now. So it's like,
which is understandable a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's over here at JumpFly, a lot of times we don't push people to spend more. If they, we'll give the suggestion of hey, as you said, the data is showing that if you increased your budget, you could get more results. And Google is not hesitant to tell you to spend more.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you have a more broad approaching campaign, maybe you have broad match, there are probably millions and millions of searches that you probably could show for, but maybe you shouldn't. Yeah. So, there's a lot of exceptions to it, but it's, I guess, a bit of a generalization, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is, like you said, let the data do the driving, is actually having a reason for it. Because as we know in life, you can't just throw money at everything and expect it to be better. Sure, sometimes it can be and will be. Sometimes it's not, but you have to have backup and reasoning. You don't just want to say spend more money just to spend more money.
Yeah, and we're never going to tell you that either.
Exactly.
That is not how we work.
Google and Amazon will.
Google will. Yeah.
Google yes. But here at JumpFly, we need our businesses to succeed as best they can, and sometimes that's spending more, sometimes that's spending where you're at. It all just kind of depends.
Yeah. That filter in between. You've got the client, you've got the platform. We're that filter. In
exactly.
Yeah.
That is a good way to put it. You need a safety buffer filter with a lot of things in life.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, why don't we do one more myth for each? So this will be our last marketplace myth, again, specifically to Amazon. Selling on Amazon is passive income.
Yeah. I mean, these all kind of tie in together, and it's unfortunate the number of, get rich quick schemes that are out there and people telling you, hey, they're looking for passive income. And honestly, I don't think anything is really truly passive in this world. You can have a very hands-off business where you can make money. And, honestly, if you put the time in to build an Amazon business, it can be stray more towards that passive side. But you've got to do all of the groundwork and lay that foundation to have a long-term sustainable business. So, could you maybe get something listed, throw some ads behind it, some automated campaigns and just start driving traffic and see the sales start to roll in? Yeah, if you have a great product, maybe. But, you're going to hit that point where it's no longer sustainable. Mm-hmm. And your costs continue to rise. Amazon fees continue to rise, all of these different aspects of running a business on Amazon. So it's more of, are you looking for something completely hands-off? Because if so, Amazon's not the place for that. But if you're looking for something where, you put in the work, you kind of front load all of that work to get yourself in a good place. Yeah, then you can maybe start to kind of get a good flow of things and start to have a nice passive income where you're doing things in the beginning to set yourself up for success. but it's never going to be, just set it and forget it. Like we mentioned earlier with everything
Mhm.
else, it's kind of, there's multiple pieces to this puzzle of selling online, and it's across the board.
Yeah.
Nothing is just simply passive. So
Yeah.
Would you call it omni-platform?
omni-channel,
Omni-channel,
that's
yeah.
huge. Yeah.
There's a lot of components that go into being successful.
Yeah.
And one platform is not going to be your main driver. It
Yeah.
might not be. There's a lot of components.
Yeah, the dedication it takes. And it's interesting you say there's no such thing as passive income these days. I mean, when you think about it, you're kind of right. I mean, sure, you can make a little money here or there, but if you're trying to make a legit income, you'd think you'd want that to make a sizable impact on how much money you have, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, exactly. And it's more, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out.
Mhm.
It's like, as with anything, hard work will pay off.
Mhm.
You put the right team behind it, you put the right strategy, all of the groundwork that you've got to lay. Over time, you'll start to see those. And honestly, like that's one thing I tell some of the small businesses. It's like, hey, this first year on Amazon, being in a competitive market, it's going to be tough, but
Mhm.
if we continue to follow the strategy, follow that playbook that we've seen work, year after year, time over time, it'll get there. So you just have to be willing to, make that investment up front, put the time in, put the money in, and then, results will come if you have the right strategy and the right team behind you.
Exactly. Well, and that ties into kind of what we were saying at the beginning of this show. You're not going to go right in and everything's going to work out great. You got to set the expectation of, hey, we need to work at this. It'll take a little time. It'll take some analysis. It'll take some adjusting. But as long as you stay with it, then you can make this work. It's just not going to be there it is.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to our last marketing myth on the PPC side. So you ready for this one?
Let's go.
Anybody can manage the campaigns. They are all AI driven anyway now.
Okay, so I'll say, in general, I do think that anyone could manage the campaigns if they take time to learn what's going on and what to optimize. But AI, although it is helpful, it's very helpful in a lot of cases, it is not a end-all be-all solution. There are campaigns in Google called smart campaigns that are completely AI driven, but they are not great. A lot of my clients, it's like I take over an account and that's their campaign. I'm like, okay, yeah, you have no idea what you're showing for. It's just giving you numbers and just hope that you're happy.
Yep.
And although AI is a big element of Google nowadays, there are tweaks that need to be made. There's, you need to be able to be on top of it, making manual changes to maybe it's adjusting your ROAS or tweaking some creatives or, making sure you're not showing for this product. There's a lot of changes that actually manually need to be done, and AI is not going to, take the reins and start just optimizing based off of, you typing in I want a 5x ROAS. It's not going to start changing everything about it. It's going to try to get you that for what you have set up.
Yep.
So if you don't have it set up properly, and there's optimizations that can be done, it's going to start to tank.
Yep.
And it's a lot of time what happens. And a lot of people do, they kind of have set it and forget it strategies for Google because they've heard that it's all AI built. It's
Yep.
all built off of, smart learning. But smart learning is based off of what you put into it. So if you're not providing it any great insights, it's not going to do well. And you're going to eventually get upset by the
You want your
performance.
hand on the wheel still.
Yeah.
Even if you have assisted parking or backing up on your
Exactly.
new car.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like a Tesla where you type in the address and just take me to this destination. Hey, even if I was,
No
even if-
thanks.
I was
No.
like, even if I drove a Tesla, I don't think I could let go of the wheel.
No.
But, yeah, you got to have control, and
Right.
if you don't have control, expect it to be, expect it to get out of control because
I mean,
it probably will.
As a business owner, like you want to have that control.
Yes.
You don't want to just let things go.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line between white knuckling that steering wheel and just holding
Yes.
on and like
Definitely.
trying to fully control every single aspect and kind of using that as a tool in your toolbox. AI is just complementary to what we do. And, the other piece, one of the things you mentioned is like, yeah, anyone can manage their campaigns if they take the time to learn it.
Yes.
But then 2 months from now, think about when we all started.
I know.
Like it's so overly different.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many changes coming out almost weekly at this point that simply keeping up with what's going on is a job in itself.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's so much to it that, anyone could take the time to learn. You can do anything if you set your mind to it, but it's like,
do you want
it's
to put
just
all those hours that we put into it?
Exactly.
Probably not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let us be the ones that keep ahead of market trends and talk to Google reps and Bing reps and, Meta, Facebook, whatever. That's what we do. Is it's more than just, hey, we're doing an SQR or we're, evaluating this ad copy. We are staying on top of these trends because of how important they are and how it's going to be essential to optimizing your ads as things continue to change. I mean, a year from now, think about how much could be different just a year from now, 6 months from now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've been here 3 years and I can already say I could put together a long scroll of how much has changed since then. Just in 3 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on my pretty much 8th year now, and I would say I don't think there's a campaign that I would set up 8 years ago that would actually properly run right now.
Right.
Like I would even say like maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's probably, I probably actually can't even set it up because Google probably dropped it.
Well, it was ETAs back then, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, before that, it was just text ads.
Right.
It was just, 2 headlines, 1 description, boop. And then they're like, expanded text ads. Now you can do 3 headlines. Well, now you got 15 options. And, there's a lot of different variations that go into it. And
what's next? 20 headlines? 30 headlines?
No, I mean, if I was to guess, they're probably going to be like, here, give us our URL, give us the URL, and we'll just curate whatever.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Which is the scary part. AI is good, but it's not that great.
Yeah.
Especially right now. Maybe it gets better. I mean, it's something that is gonna be ingrained in what we do going forward. So, and that's another aspect. AI, it's a big part of the marketplace. It's a big part of the internet, and we're on top of it. We have AI committees over here. We have meetings about it all the time. So we're trying to learn those trends before it even is like mainstream, and it's a strategy that everybody is implementing. We're trying to get before it becomes popular in a sense.
Exactly, and we keep evaluating the effectiveness of some of these AI tools. Like for example, Performance Max. Now you could put in a URL and try to have it generate like your assets basically.
And it will.
And it's a kind of a mixed bag right now, I would say, in terms of what it develops, but in a year from now, it could be completely different. It could be much, much better. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we do is test some of this AI stuff and just see how good it is. Because some of it is better than others right now, and it's going to keep changing.
There's a lot of elements that, they roll out, we try it, and we deem that it's not working right now. Maybe I'll revisit it in like 6 months once there's updates to it and, I've seen proof that it actually works. But that's kind of, why you would probably hire us is we are already on top of those trends. We've already ran scenarios that will either help your business or not help your business, and we're there to give you the advice. Yeah,
and shelving doesn't necessarily mean you're getting rid of the idea completely. Like you said, you could shelve something and then you come back to it in a few months and it could work differently. It could be worse, it could be better, but that's what we try to keep on top of and keep evaluating.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, boys, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for busting some myths with me today. Next time, I promise we will go out and get some explosives and maybe some Mentos and Coke and a few other fun things. But until next time, thank you, the listener, for listening and watching this podcast. Be sure to check out JumpFly.com to see what we do here at JumpFly, all of our staff and expertise. And be sure to check out more of our episodes if you haven't already. Like, subscribe. We are on YouTube, we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So until next time, have a good one. We'll talk to you later.